Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMZ, Diwan-e-Ghalib, Meri Zubani. To all our returning viewers, we are very happy you could join us again. And to the new viewers, we are delighted you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Now, if you were with me in the previous episode, you know we are going through Ghazal 30 from Diwan-e-Ghalib, Jab Ba-Taqrib-e-Safar Yaar ne Mahmil bandha. We've already covered 3 couplets. They are posted on the channel. Today we are going to get into the 4th couplet. This would be the last couplet for this ghazal that was published in the Divan. As always, I'm going to read the couplet first, then we'll do a quick approximate translation and then get into the keywords, key concepts, and finally the DGMZ impression of the couplet. So, this is how it goes. Na bandhe तिश्नगी-ए-ज़ौक़ के मज़मून गालिब, ना बंधे तिश्नगी-ए-ज़ौक़ के मज़मून गालिब, गर्चे दिल खोल के दरिया को भी साहिल बांधा. Let's do an approximate translation. First line, ना बंधे तिश्नगी-ए-ज़ौक़ के मज़मून गालिब. The theme for the thirst for relish and pleasure, could not be compiled, could not be tied down, Ghalib. Second line, Garche Dil khol ke Dariyaa ko bhi Saahil bandha. Even though I opened the heart freely and compiled or tied down the ocean to the shore. So that is the approximate translation. Let's start getting into our keywords. First word, Tishnagi. Tishnagi is thirst, right? इस पे परवीन शाकिर का ये शेर, वो समुंदर है तो फिर रूह को शादाब करे, तिश्नगी क्यों मुझे देता है शराबों की तरह. Good one. Approximate translation is, if they are an ocean, then they should come and flourish me, nourish me, right? Make me bloom. Why do they give me this thirst as a mirage would? दाग दहलवी का ये शेर, साकिया तिश्नगी की ताब नहीं, जहर दे दे अगर शराब नहीं. The approximate translation is, O cup bearer, I have no more ability to bear this thirst. If you are not willing to give me wine, give me poison instead. But give me something. This thirst is unbearable. Moving on to the next word, Zauq. Now, Zauq is a multifaceted word, as many words we encounter at DGMZ. So, Zauq is a liking, a flavor, a zest, a relish for something, desiring something, wanting something. Now, you can want it for its aesthetics, you can want it for the feelings or emotions it evokes in you, you can want it for the flavor you experience through it. But whatever the case might be, Zauq is this relish, this pleasure, this taste for something, wanting something. इस पे अल्लामा इकबाल का ये शेर, गुलामी में ना काम आती हैं शमशीरें ना तदबीरें, जो हो ज़ौक़ यकीन पैदा तो कट जाती हैं ज़ंजीरें. So the approximate translation is, in slavery, neither do the swords help, neither do any kind of planning help, nor any kind of destiny or fate helps. If you have that flavor, that relish, that taste for belief, for faith, then that relish, that zest for belief and faith has the ability to cut your chains and free you. The swords won't do it, the planning won't do it, destiny and fate won't do it. P. Nasruddin Shah Nasir का ये शेर, कभी उनका नाम लेना, कभी उनकी बात करना, मेरा ज़ौक़ उनकी चाहत, मेरा शौक़ उन पे मरना. Approximate translation is, sometimes to take her name, sometimes to talk about her. My relish, my zest is to desire her, and my favorite thing to do is to give up my life for her, sacrifice my life for her. And then last one, Allama Iqbal ka hi शेर, खोली हैं ज़ौक़े दीद ने आँखें तेरी अगर, good one, खोली हैं ज़ौक़े दीद ने आँखें तेरी अगर, हर रह गुज़र में नक्शे कफ़े पाए यार देख. The approximate translation is, if the zest for vision has actually opened your eyes, right, then you should, in every path, in every road, see the footprints of the beloved. You should be able to see it. If the zest for vision has actually opened your eyes, everywhere, every direction, every path, every road, you will see her footprints. You should see her footprints. Alright, that takes care of Zauq. Moving on to Mazmuun. So, pivotal word for this couplet, Mazmuun is the composition, the underlying theme, the topic of something. Very frequently used in poetry to refer to the theme, the composition, the topic of the poetry. दाग दहलवी का ये शेर, गरज क्या की समझे मेरे खत का मजमून, वो उन्वान और तर्ज रकम देखते हैं. The approximate translation is, she has just no interest. She has no vested interest in getting into the underlying theme, the underlying messaging of my letter. All she is interested in is the title or the heading of the letter and the style of writing. Very superficial, right? Judging the book by the cover. No interest in getting into the theme and underlying message of the letter. मिर्ज़ा गालिब का ये शेर, खुलेगा किस तरह मजमून मेरे मकतूब का या रब, कसम खाई है उस काफिर ने कागज़ के जलाने की. The approximate translation is, Dear Lord, how will the underlying message, the underlying theme of my letter ever be revealed to her? That idol has vowed to burn my letters. How will my message ever get revealed to her? And then last one, and a very good one from Amir Minai. नाम शायर ना सही, नाम शायर ना सही, शेर का मजमू हो खूब, फल से मतलब हमें क्या काम शजर किसका है. Beautiful couplet. Approximate translation is, it is okay if the poet comes with no name, claim and fame. It's absolutely fine because we are interested in the theme, in the composition of his poetry. After all, we are interested in the fruit. We are not bothered which tree it has come from. As long as the fruit is good, we are all for it. So that takes care of Mazmuun. Moving on to Dariyaa, another common word. We use it in our local vocabulary very frequently. Dariyaa is any big water body. It can be a river, it can be an ocean, it can be a sea. इस पे मुंशी खैराती लाल शागुफ्ता का ये शेर, मजमूए इश्क ज़हन सितमगर में आ गया, दरिया सिमट के हल्काए सागर में आ गया. The approximate translation is, the subject or the theme or the composition of love has come into the mind of the cruel one, of the tyrant one, of the tyrant, by extension the beloved. It seems as if the river has finally come into the captivity of the circling ocean. So beloved is that tyrant, right? The cruel one who is the big ocean, and this mazmue ishq, this composition, this theme of love has now got captured in that ocean. This small river has gotten captured in that ocean. अब क्या होगा इस मजमूए इश्क का ये तो खुदा ही जानता है, but इस वक्त तो captured in ज़हन सितमगर. So that takes care of Dariyaa. Moving on to Saahil. दरिया है तो साहिल भी होना ही चाहिए. Sahil is a seashore, shore, coast of any river body. इस पे अहमद फराज का ये शेर, डूबते डूबते किश्ती को उछाला दे दूँ, ब्यूटीफुल कपलेट, बड़े लोगों की बड़ी बातें। डूबते डूबते कश्ती को उछाला दे दूँ, मैं नहीं कोई तो साहिल पे उतर जाएगा। द अप्रॉक्सीमेट ट्रांसलेशन इज, while I'm drowning, as I'm drowning, let me give a big upward thrust, one last big upward thrust to this boat. If not me, at least someone else might take advantage of this thrust and jump onto the shore to safety. What a couplet! क्या जज्बात है, क्या विजुअलाइजेशन है, गजब का शेर है। बशीर बद्र का शेर, होठों पे मोहब्बत के फसाने नहीं आते, साहिल पे समुंदर के खजाने नहीं आते। Another good one. The approximate translation is, on the lips you will never see the tales of true love being narrated. Such tales never come on the lips. Just as the treasures of the deep depths of the ocean will never be found lying on its coast. You want those treasures? You dive deep. Those treasures don't come and sit on the shore for someone to come and pick them. Beautiful. And then राजा मेहंदी अली खां का ये शेर, आपकी मंजिल हूँ मैं, मेरी मंजिल आप हैं, क्यों मैं तूफ़ानों से डरूं, मेरा साहिल आप हैं। क्यों मैं तूफ़ान से डरूं, मेरा साहिल आप हैं। So this is part of that famous song, आपकी नज़रों ने समझा प्यार के काबिल मुझे। The approximate translation is, I am your destination, you are my destination. Why should I ever fear the storm when you are my shore? Right? When you are my shore, you've got my back. All right. So that takes care of all the keywords. Let's start getting into the impression. First line, ना बंधे तिश्नगी-ए-ज़ौक़ के मज़मून गालिब. The themes of thirst, for relish, for pleasure, could not get compiled, could not get tied down, could not get bound. Ghalib. Ghalib starts the couplet with na bandhe. Now, to grasp the meaning of this word complex na bandhe, let's spend a few minutes on bandhe. Bandhe, bandhe, or bandhna. These are all common words frequently used as a verb, right, to describe an action of tying something, binding something, restricting something, restraining something, tethering something, right? But in Urdu poetry, bandhe or bandhna takes a whole new meaning beyond this usual literal verb usage. Bandhe or bandhna in Urdu poetry talks about crafting, compiling, assembling, and drafting of emotions or words, or sometimes both, as it would be in the art form of poetry, what we call shairi. In addition to the compilation of emotions into words, Urdu poetry also needs to tie down the meter or metrical line of verses. So, yes, Urdu poetry will have to capture emotions into words, which any poetry would, but then there is this set rhyme and meter and refrain conditions that also have to be met. Here at DGMZ, we have on countless occasions admired Ghalib's unmatched expertise to compile or tie or bind vast, deep oceans or icebergs of feelings and emotions in the constricted, restrained 13 to 15 words of a sher, while all the time adhering to the meter and the refrain requirements too. And most importantly, he does it in a way that seems and reads effortlessly and naturally. The verb-based usage of bandhe and the Urdu poetry usage of bandhe is played with extensively by Urdu poets. Now, some shairs/poets will use bandhe as the verb for tying something literally as part of a physical action, मिर्ज़ा गालिब का शेर, आज वहाँ तेगो कफन बांधे हुए जाता हूँ मैं, उज़्र मेरे कत्ल करने में वो अब लावेंगे क्या. Approximate translation is, I have the sword and the shroud cloth tied to me, and now I go to the beloved. Let me see what excuse she will make this time for not slaying me, for not killing me, for not executing me. So that is the physical bandhna, where the sword is tied to the waist and the shroud cloth is tied on the head. Some shayars will use bandhe as invisible, intangible, non-physical, metaphorical tying of things like emotions or words. इस पे अमजद इस्लाम अमजद का ये शेर, दिल में कितने अहद बांधे थे भुलाने के उसे. क्यूट वन. दिल में कितने अहद बांधे थे भुलाने के उसे, वो मिला तो सब इरादे तोड़ना अच्छा लगा. The approximate translation is, how many promises I had tied together in my heart of forgetting him, of forgetting them. Him, her, we are not sure, it is them. But when I met them, it felt so good to break one promise after the other. It gave me so much pleasure to break each and every promise I had tied together in my heart of forgetting them. अनीस दहलवी का ये शेर, जो दिल बांधे वो जादू जानता है, मेरा महबूब उर्दू जानता है. The approximate translation is, the thing that can tie your heart, that can captivate your heart, that thing, that magic, they know, my beloved knows the language of Urdu. So this is that tying of a heart through words, very intangible, very metaphorical. And then last one, Isha Allah Khan, Isha ka ye sher, jazba ishq salamat hai to Isha Allah, pan on the takhallus, कच्चे धागे से चले आएंगे सरकार बंधे. The approximate translation is, if the emotion of love remains strong, remains intact, then God willing, they will come to me tied by a weak thread. A weak thread is enough to tie them and bring them, draw them to me. So again, that intangible tying, right? Of course, there is no thread and nothing like that, right? So that is another usage. Now finally, there are some shayars and poets who will alternate between the two usages again and again, sometimes in the same ghazal and at times even in the same couplet, creating this complexity that is oddly pleasurable to decipher. अब ये मोहम्मद रफ़ी सौदा का शेर देखें. जब यार ने उठाकर जुल्फों के बाल बांधे, तब मैंने अपने दिल में लाखों ख्याल बांधे. Right? The approximate translation is, when the beloved stood up and started tying up her tresses, in parallel I started tying up varied emotions and feelings in my heart. So in the first line, it is the verb usage where she's actually physically tying her tresses up in a knot or whatever hairstyle. And the second line is the usage which is metaphorical. The lover is tying these emotions, these feelings, these visualizations in his heart. Anisha Anis का शेर, हाथ मेरे हैं बंधे, हाथ मिलाऊं कैसे, पास होकर भी तेरे पास मैं आऊं कैसे. So again, हाथ बंधे is a physical act, and then it can also be a metaphorical act where the hands can be literally tied and hence the lover cannot approach the beloved, but in all probability the scenario is hands are kind of free. It is feelings and emotions, circumstances that are tying his hand. And though he might be standing very near to the beloved, he will not be able to extend his hand and touch her, as if his hands are physically tied. So the pun on both the physical and the metaphorical tying. Now, with all that background context into bandhna, let's revisit our first line, first portion. Na bandhe, could not be tied, could not be bound. Now, since the first line does have the word mazmu, which is theme or compilation of something, we know that this bandhe in the first line is actually with reference to the poetry compilation, the poetry theme, the poetry context. For a shair of Ghalib's caliber and mastery to make a statement like na bandhe, that's not an easy statement to make. एक शायर जो मजमू ना बांध पाए, a poet who cannot compile or craft the theme for his poetry. That's what that says. Na bandhe mazmu, right? Well, such a poet, bluntly put, is a failure as a shair / poet. If a poet cannot compile the theme for his poetry, then is he even worth being referred to as a poet? So the question arises, is Ghalib actually admitting to a failure? Is he actually admitting to being unsuccessful as a shair with reference to being able to compile a theme? Well, the answer of that question lies in the theme itself. Let's look into this complex theme that has beaten Ghalib at Ghalib's own game, which is shairi, poetry. So the theme is about Tishnagi-e-Zauq, thirst for zest, for relish, for pleasure, for flavor. Thirst for something, thirst for everything that would bring this ultimate satisfaction and pleasure. In the lover's world, this Tishnagi-e-Zauq is integral to his soul, his very being. The lover desires for the whole ocean because only that has the ability to handle or quench the thirst the lover has inside of him. उर्फी अफाकी का ये शेर, चला था मैं तो समुंदर की तिश्नगी लेकर, मिला ये कैसा शराबों का सिलसिला मुझको. The approximate translation is, when I started on my journey, I had a thirst for the ocean. But lo and behold, on my journey, I have been encountering these mirages one after the other. They seem like water, but they are not water. They seem like water, but they are not water. They seem like... And I was looking for the ocean. आदिल मंसूरी का ये शेर, बस तिश्नगी की आँख से देखा करो उन्हें, दरिया रवा दवा है चमकते सराब के. The promise of love in the beloved seems so real, and yet it is not, right? So the approximate translation of the couplet is, just behold her, behold the beloved with eyes that are thirsty. And when you do that, you will see that the rivers are flowing, ebbing of these mirages that you see. The rivers will feel so real in their motion, in their visual appearance, if you look at her with eyes that are thirsty. Because of course, beloved is a mirage. You are not going to get water, right? But it seems as if she is real water. She is the answer to your thirst. Such is the intensity of this thirst that the lover has inside of him, that if by slim chance the lover even got to quench his thirst, that quenching of the thirst would only make the thirst more intense, would only increase the thirst. नून मीम राशिद का ये शेर, विसाले दोस्त से भी कम ना हो सकी राशिद, अजल से पाई हुई तिश्नगी को क्या कीजिए. The approximate translation is, even the union with the beloved could not quench, could not decrease this thirst, Rashid. And the poet is referring to himself. What do you do with a thirst like this that has been inherited from eternity itself? Even the union did not decrease it. Forget about finishing it, did not even decrease it. सकीब महमूद का ये शेर, तिश्नगी वस्ल की बढ़ जाती है हर वस्ल के बाद, और गज़लें मेरी मज़मू को दोहराती हैं. The approximate translation is, the thirst increases even, the thirst for union increases even more after union. And the themes of my ghazals, of my poetry, continue to be the same. The thirst is intact, and hence the theme is intact. Had the thirst decreased, I might have changed the theme of my ghazal, picked up some other theme, but no, the theme remains the same, because after union, the thirst for union increases even more. So, now thanks to all these couplets, we start getting an idea about this theme that Ghalib was unable to compile and tie together. Theme of an unquenchable thirst for that eternal, soul-satisfying pleasure, flavor, taste. In lover's case, it would be the pleasure, flavor, taste for love and passion. This thirst will never be quenched. If the lover gets to quench it, the more he will get, the more he will want. And if he does not get to quench it, then of course that too will keep increasing the intensity of this थर्स्ट। राहत इंदौरी का ये शेर, बहुत गुरूर है दरिया को अपने होने पर, जो मेरी प्यास से उलझे तो धज्जियाँ उड़ जाएं। Good one, right? The approximate translation is how vain and proud this ocean is on its existence. If someday it was to come and compete with my thirst, it would be blown to smithereens. It would not know what to do with the thirst I have. It would just poof, disintegrate, would not be able to handle my thirst. Such is my thirst. So how does one get around quantifying, capturing, compiling the lover's thirst? A thirst that has no bounds, no limits. A thirst that has from eternity had a destiny to only increase and intensify. This thirst is not destined or meant to be quenched. That's what sets it apart from all other types of thirst. शहरियार का ये शेर, शिकवा कोई दरिया की रवानी से नहीं है, ब्यूटीफुल कपलेट, शिकवा कोई दरिया की रवानी से नहीं है, रिश्ता ही मेरी प्यास का पानी से नहीं है. The approximate translation is, I have no complaints against the ocean and its waves and its currents and its flow. Because after all, this thirst of mine has no relation with water. Water can do nothing for it. The thirst has no dynamic, no relation, no equation with water. Such is this thirst. Such is this thirst. So, keeping those characteristics of thirst or tishnagi in mind, the fact that Ghalib in this first line admits to his failure as a poet of being able to tie together, compile a theme for this thirst, starts making sense. Why couldn't he do it? Ghalib, in order to magnify and highlight the unquenchable, intangible, elusive nature of this thirst, states that he as a shayer or a poet stands defeated, incapable to compile and capture, incapable to tie down this thirst via his poetry, via his compilation. The fact of the matter is that Ghalib states, as always in an unsaid way, that even with his God-given caliber extraordinaire as a shayer and poet, it's impossible to compile a theme successfully for such an elusive topic. And hence, the maestro admits humbly, na bandhe Mazmuun, na bandhe Tishnagi-e-Zauq ke Mazmuun Ghalib. The theme could not be tied down, the theme could not be compiled. Alright, that takes care of the first line. Let's move into the second line. Garche Dil khol ke Dariyaa ko bhi Saahil baandha. Although I freely opened the heart and compiled and bound even the ocean to the shore. Ghalib used the first line to admit that he was unsuccessful to tie down, to capture, to compile this elusive, unquenchable thirst in his poetry theme. Now he uses this second line to emphasize that though he was unsuccessful, it was not because he did not try. The fact of the matter is, he did try. In fact, he tried really hard and, true to his nature, left no stone unturned in his effort. Ghalib uses the second line to quantify the extreme level of his efforts in terms of tying down, compiling, and capturing this thirst in his theme. He starts the second line with Garche Dil khol ke, even though I opened up my heart. Now, of the million things a lover's heart houses or holds inside it, an ocean is one of them. An ocean of emotions. Not just any emotions, but some of the most intense ones we can ever feel. Emotions of love, emotions of desire, emotions of grief, emotions of sorrow, emotions of hope, and emotions of hopelessness. सैफुद्दीन सैफ का ये शेर, दिल दरिया की था बताएं क्या जिसमें 7 समुंदर की गहराई रहती है. The approximate translation is, what do I describe and detail about the depths of the oceans, not oceans, ocean of the heart. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Chai. सैफुद्दीन सैफ का ये शेर, दिल दरिया की था बताएं क्या जिसमें 7 समुंदर की गहराई रहती है. The approximate translation is, what do I tell you about the depths of the ocean in the heart? An ocean in which resides the depths of 7 oceans. How do I even detail it? How do I tell you about it? What do I tell you about it? An ocean in which resides the depths of 7 oceans. गुहार खैराबादी का शेर, वुसअतें दिल की हैं दरिया की तरह, कौन कहता है कि दिल दरिया नहीं. Approximate translation is the expanse, the depths, the overall spread of the heart is like an ocean. Who says that heart is not an ocean? The depth and the expanse of it is like an ocean. So, Garche Dil khol ke, when the heart threw open completely without any restraint or hesitation, out came flowing the intense ocean of the heart. Ek selaab, a flood, a torrent, a deluge. सबीला इनाम सिद्दीकी का ये शेर, दिल डूब जाएगा मेरा बारिश में प्यार की, सैलाब इश्क आने की शायद शुनीद है. The approximate translation is, my heart is going to drown in the rain of love. It seems as if the flood of love is going to arrive. I can hear the flood of love arriving. Right? This flood spares no one. And then Mirza Ghalib का हम लोगों ने शेर, we just covered it in the last गज़ल और last to last गज़ल, गिला है शौक को दिल में भी तंगिए जा का, गौहर में महव हुआ इस्तराब दरिया का. In that, so the approximate translation is that desire and ardor are complaining about the narrowness of the space in the heart, because after all, in the pearl of the heart is captured the restlessness of an entire ocean. Till now in this second line we have understood that Garche Dil khol ke Dariyaa ko, which means even though I threw open completely the floodgates of my heart, freeing the ocean inside. Now, towards the end of this second line, Ghalib throws in a twist. In true Ghalib style, in true Mushaira style. Saahil bandha. अर्थात I tied it to the shore. दरिया को साहिल बांधा. Tied the ocean down as the shore, to the shore. So now the second line reads as, even though I threw open my heart, freely and completely, releasing the ocean inside and tying that ocean to the shore. Now, as we discovered some time back, tying down in Urdu poetry or from a Mazmuun perspective would be compiling. So therefore, the second line will read as, even though I threw open my heart completely, freeing the ocean inside it, which I compiled as shore. We know Ghalib is using the second line to let us know about the extreme effort he made despite the failure he stated in the first line. Calling the entire ocean a shore, why? What seems to be the significance? Well, the answer lies in the theme of thirst, which is at the center of this couplet. Tishnagi-e-Zauq ke Mazmuun. Theme of the thirst for pleasure, for flavor, for taste, for relish. In the world of Urdu poetry, we have fantastic and very intense symbolisms available for thirst. One of the most common ones is that of a desert, a dry, parched, heated, arid desert. We have the thirst for wine, which is talked about a lot, right? All the parched lips and thirsty lips and wanting lips for the wine, be it the literal wine or the metaphorical wine of love, which the beloved serves. Now, all these symbolisms of thirst have one thing in common. The thirst is occurring because of the absence of liquid. There is no liquid available in the desert, there is no liquid available in the goblet, hence the thirst. Now, there is another kind of thirst that Urdu poetry does a fabulous job of describing, and that is a thirst which is one of its kind because it does not exist due to absence of liquid. In fact, just the opposite. This thirst occurs in close proximity to the liquid. Not just a drop of liquid, not just a glass of liquid, not just a bottle of liquid. This thirst occurs in proximity to an ocean of liquid. That's right. This, dear viewers, is the thirst of the shore. Saahil ki pyas. The phrase thirst of a shore is a poetic or metaphorical expression. It refers to a profound and unfulfilled longing. The shore, which is constantly touched by the ocean, can never quench its thirst by the infinite ocean waters. This symbolism mirrors a persistent, unending desire for something very close, but still beyond one's grasp. Even physically, if you look at the shore, it does have a look of dryness, at times even parched, right? Which stands in stark contrast to the thing next to it, an ocean, fluid, wet, drenched, full of water, right? The proximity of water to the shore makes the thirst of the shore take on a unique, poignant intensity. One suddenly feels lucky to be lying thirsty in a desert with no water in sight, rather than lying beside an ocean for eternity with thirst inside them. That is torture beyond imagination. And that torture is the exact reason the thirst of the shore is no ordinary thirst. It is no ordinary thirst. So all vast oceans, dripping and drenched and overflowing with water, have these thirsty, parched shores running beside them forever and ever. Such is the destiny, such is the purpose of these shores, that they will remain eternally thirsty despite touching the ocean always. Now, thirsty shores as symbolism for thirst is making sense after that background. But why tie down, why compile the ocean as a shore? Dariyaa ko Saahil bandha. Why did Ghalib compile, tie, bind the ocean as a shore? Not to the shore, as a shore. Why not stick to compiling the shore as a shore, ocean as a ocean? We could still get the thirst theme, right, from the shore, which is supposed to be thirsty. Well, the why lies in the famous Ghalib quantification. As we always say at DGMZ, Ghalib was not someone who would just throw out something at you. Well, this happened. No. He will tell you what happened and then he's going to quantify it for you. Because what he's saying happens to 1 million people. Million people talk about it. The thing that differentiates when Ghalib talks about it is the quantification, validation, UAT testing that he puts in place, right, for his viewers. So here comes the multi-layered cake, famous multi-layered cake of Ghalib, where he is now going to, or where he has been throughout the couplet, building layer by layer the intensity, the visualization, the quantification, the validation of his entire couplet. So, first layer, vast, deep ocean. To begin with, a great voluminous entity, right? Deep ocean. Second layer, not just your normal ocean, but the ocean inside the lover's heart. This is one of the deepest, the most mysterious, the most tumultuous of all oceans. So, deep ocean, but not just any deep ocean, the deep ocean within the lover's heart. Third layer, deepest ocean within the lover's heart with thirsty shores. So, of course, since this ocean is one of the deepest, the thirst of the shores will also be one of the most thirstiest, if that is a word, right? A thirst which is not for plain water alone. A thirst which is for pleasure, which is for love, which is for desire. A thirst no normal shore of a normal ocean can ever match, right? So, one of its kind ocean, one of its kind shore. Fourth and the final layer. This is where Ghalib says, I not only took this shore's thirst and tied it down into my poetry, but I in fact tied down the entire ocean as a shore to my poetry. So not just the actual shore, but the entire ocean freed from the heart was converted to a shore and tied down to the theme of thirst by me. This is the extreme effort that Ghalib has done to capture the thirst, the Mazmuun of Tishnagi. These are the lengths he went to in his effort to try and quantify the thirst for pleasure, for ardor, for relish. Not just from a volume perspective, but also from the depths, the complexity of it. He let loose the ocean of his heart and then converted it to a thirsty shore and then added it to the actual thirsty shore. And still, na bandhe Tishnagi-e-Zauq ke Mazmuun Ghalib. He, despite all this Herculean effort, could not do justice to the depth, the intensity, the poignancy of the thirst for pleasure and for ardor. Even the ocean of his own heart failed to be an accurate, justifiable depiction of this thirst, which is beyond all oceans, all shores. This is a thirst that simply cannot be captured in words. So that takes care of the second line, Garche Dil khol ke Dariyaa ko bhi Saahil bandha. Now, as always, let's take a few minutes to step back and look at the couplet in totality. Ghalib, in DGMZ's opinion, in this couplet pays respect. He honors the thirst, not just any thirst, but that specific thirst for pleasure, for relish, for flavor, for want that resides in the lover's heart. Ghalib says, there is no match available in this universe that can adequately describe, capture this thirst. To begin with, this thirst would require a lot to quench it. And in addition, the more you quench it, the more it increases, the more it intensifies. How can you ever put an estimate, either quantitatively or qualitatively, on such a thing? Another thing that DGMZ believes comes through in this couplet is that the poet in Ghalib bows down to the lover in Ghalib. The poet concedes defeat as he states, I agree that despite all my efforts to do justice to this thirst inside the lover, I cannot describe it, I cannot compile it, I cannot quantify it, I cannot bind it, I cannot tie it down. The poet in me concedes defeat to the lover and the intensity of his thirst. So that is how this couplet came across to us. Now, that brings us to the end of Ghazal 30 today. What that means is, next time we will start with a new Ghazal, Ghazal 31. We will create a playlist for this Ghazal for easy access, put all the episodes in it so that you can listen to the entire Ghazal in one go if you wish to. Now, for the new viewers, as always, a strong recommendation to access the episode titled Introduction to DGMZ, because it will give you a good insight into the motivation and inspiration behind this podcast. For the regular viewers, always encourage you to visit the homepage of the channel, check out the playlist, check out the post tab, check out the community tab. I don't know if you're aware of this new feature that YouTube has introduced, where now you have a community tab. Some of the viewers have put comments in there. I really appreciate that. I, as a creator, cannot comment. It is a place for you to interact with each other. You can comment, you can put shares in there, ask questions, share stories, whatever you want to do. It's your place to interact with each other, of course, on the topics that we cover here. So check it out, start a discussion. Who knows, we might get some great insights. I would be very excited if I could get new shares and couplets and ideas and themes and questions in that post. I will definitely make it a point to address those. So see that and engage if you so wish to. Now I'm going to go ahead and end this episode, as always, by sending a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers, and thanks for watching.